Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Ashley Thomas and here is my review of Birds of Prey and the fantabulous emancipation of the one Harley Quinn. Okay, so here we got Birds of Prey, directed by Kathy Yan. I thought the marketing for this movie was terrible. If I was not a fan of the DC universe or DC comic book movies or just comic book movies in general, I really feel like this movie would have just gone under my radar. I mean, it would have just slipped past me. Even being an avid fan of movies, I really felt like due to the marketing, if I wasn't such a fan of the DC universe when it comes to the movies, this film would have slipped past me. And the trailers were just terrible. Just from the trailers, really, the movie just didn't look that great. It looked quite bland and just really bad. I got no real feeling or vibes from the trailers. And so, yeah, my expectations, especially with Suicide Squad, this being a sort of spin-off from Suicide Squad. I mean, I wasn't a fan of Suicide Squad. I was very disappointed with that movie. So it left a bad taste in my mouth. So all of that sort of mixed together, my expectations for Birds of Prey were pretty low, and probably the one DC Universe movie that I was least looking forward to. So it's R-rated, and I'll be honest, I did not expect this movie to be as R-rated as it was. I loved it. There were some really intense moments within this movie which involved ripping off faces. There were F-bombs all over the place. It was just great. Maybe not quite as extreme as Deadpool, but it was pretty close. Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn is just simply amazing. I love what she's done with the character. For me, she was born for this role. She hits all the right notes and the nuances. She really captures the nuances of the character and just really captures the essence of Harley Quinn, and I just found it to be really, incredibly funny in this movie. I think when it comes to Margot Robbie's comic timing, I mean, she delivers the humor fantastically. So on the topic of humor, I really like the humor in this movie. There's times when it worked and it shouldn't have, but it did, and for me that was kind of like the movie overall. I mean, really, when you look at this movie, I felt like it really shouldn't have worked, but it just did. But the humour for me really worked. It's dark at times. The comic timing is spot on. There is this one moment where we get this costume change right in the middle of an action fight scene. It's a great scene. I loved it. But I questioned it immediately. I was sitting there and I was thinking, when did she actually manage to do that? When did she manage to change that piece of costume? But as I'm thinking that, it's immediately addressed by another character. So I really did laugh at that moment. I mean, the timing, the way it was delivered, it was a simple line and it was just perfect. And there's a few of those moments throughout the film. And as a result, this film is very aware of itself, and I felt like the movie worked better as a result of this. The rest of the performances are solid. Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Helena Bertinelli, Huntress, was just great. Janae Smollett, I think that's how you pronounce her name, apologies if it's incorrect, as Black Canary. She was also really good in this movie. And you've got a Rosie Perez as Renee Montoya. And I also really liked her. I really liked the characters within this movie. I liked what they did to the characters. I liked how they brought them to life. I felt like the comic delivery was just spot on. And yeah, I just really liked what they did with them. I mean, they were just really likable characters. I ended up really falling for these characters. And we don't really get them as a team throughout. So when this, this film is called Birds of Prey, but you don't really get the Birds of Prey until within the third act or the final of the movie. But what we did get of these characters, I just really liked, and I really enjoyed what they did with these characters. Ewan McGregor as Black Mask was just fantastic. I loved how he portrayed this villain. I believe it's the first time we've seen this Batman villain on screen. And yeah, I just loved what he did with the character. It was camp, it was silly, but the humour, the comedic levels were just right. He wasn't too camp and too silly, which at times it could have been, but he just reined it in at the right moments. He got this character spot on when it came to sort of balancing the humour side of it, and the fact that at the end of the day you've still got to fear this character. This character has to have that sinister, evil presence, and Ewan McGregor still managed to achieve that while still having that sort of silly camp side attached to the character. So as a result, I just thought what Ewan McGregor did with this character, with all of those elements, was just great because it worked. And yes, if anyone else had played the character, it might not have, but Ewan McGregor just nailed it. You do get these moments which are a little bit camp, a little bit silly, with a little bit of humour in them, but there was also moments which were incredibly intense involving the character of Black Mask. There was this one scene in particular, no spoilers, but it involves a character laughing at Black Mask in his bar. So obviously he does something to this particular character, but it's such an incredibly intense scene down to the way Ewan McGregor portrays the character, how he performs the character within this moment, and it does get incredibly intense and incredibly dark. But it works. It doesn't sort of throw you out and it's all like, oh, where did that come from? It just works. And that's, again, like I keep saying, it's down to the way Ewan McGregor portrays. It's down to Ewan McGregor's performance of this character. Chris Messina as Victor Zsasz is also terrific. I believe this is also the first time you've seen this villain in a movie. He was in the Gotham TV show, but I actually preferred the way he was portrayed within this movie. I felt like it was more accurate to the character. He's slimy, he's creepy, unpredictable, and he just seems to really relish in playing this character. He seems to really enjoy playing this character. So let's dive into one of my negatives with this movie. And one of my biggest problems with this movie was they just didn't delve deep enough into these characters. As much as I loved Black Mask and what Ewan McGregor did with the character, I just wanted more when it came to the character's motives and background. Same goes for the other characters within the Birds of Prey. Huntress, for example, you do get a glimpse of her background, and where she came from and why she was doing what she was doing. And for me, it was very Tarantino Kill Bill-esque, and I just fucking loved it. In fact, there's a few moments throughout the movie and how the narrative was structured felt very Tarantino. But yeah, overall, I just wanted more depth when it came to the characters, so we had a little bit more of an emotional impact, an emotional clout. The attempt was there, but we just don't quite get it. So when it comes to the characters' development within this movie, that's probably my biggest gripe, because overall, I really, really enjoyed this movie. It was very entertaining. It has some really fun, exciting, imaginative action scenes. The action in this movie is just amazing. The choreography in the fight scenes is just great. Very reminiscent of the John Wick movies. We did have Chad Stahelski join as a second unit director for reshoots, and it sort of shows. But yeah, very intense, very inventive, imaginative and fun. You get some really nice wide shots of the fight scenes. You see everything, and as a result you just get really immersed into this movie and into this wild, manic roller coaster ride. And what I really liked was the lack of CGI as well within these fight scenes. Like when one of these characters gets thrown into a door and the door comes off, it all looks real. It's all like practical effects, and just the lack of CGI I really dug and just made it feel as wacky as this movie is, and how some of these scenes are just still felt very, very real. Still felt real and gritty. And yeah, I loved it. So the structure of the story, the narrative within this movie is quite chaotic, especially during the first two acts, and it reminded me a little bit of a Tarantino movie in the way the story was actually told, and I really, really liked it. I didn't find it as jarring as some people have, and for me it just really worked. It worked for what this film is essentially about, and it's about Harley Quinn. Yeah, it has Birds of Prey in the title, but this is essentially a Harley Quinn movie. It's manic, it's a chaotic ride, and I can imagine that's what it's like in the mind of Harley. So I really do feel like they conveyed the character mentally through the structure of the narrative. We get some really great, exciting set pieces in which you get some of the fantastic action in this movie. Like, I really like the set design in this film. It has that sort of carnival funhouse vibe about it, which I just found incredibly fun and imaginative. You've got sort of the really bright colours that popped, like the reds, the blues, the greens. You know, it's a very colourful, vibrant movie, and as a result, it has that sort of distinct style and look to it. It has that comic book cartoon feel about it, but still very R-rated and at times gritty and dark. The balance of tone for me within this movie just worked. I thought the score by Daniel Pemberton, I really loved the score in this movie to a point where I'm probably gonna purchase it. I felt like it really elevated some of the scenes, and the music dotted throughout by various artists was utilised just right. It felt natural and organic, not like how they did it with Suicide Squad, where Suicide Squad just ended up feeling like one big music video. The way the music from these various artists was utilised within this story, within the movie, just worked. So yeah, I went in not expecting much with this movie. I was not impressed by the trailers, and I was expecting something similar along the lines of Suicide Squad, so basically just a mess. But I was actually pleasantly surprised. Yes, it's not a perfect movie, but it was so much damn fun. There was so much that did work for me when it comes to this movie. Some of it shouldn't, but it just did. And yeah, you know, the screenplay is a little bit ropey in places, and there isn't much of a story. I mean, the story, if you want to call it a story, the story is very, very basic. But it's how the story is presented. How the story is presented through the structure of the narrative, the performances, the action, the cinematography, the direction. As a result of all of this, for me, the film worked. Oh, and if they do a sequel, which I hope they do, I want more Bruce, the hyena. Maybe something like that dog scene out of John Wick Parabellum, John Wick 3 Parabellum. I'd love to have a scene like that with Harley Quinn and a hyena, and just, yeah, that would be absolutely amazing. So yeah, please go and see it. I really enjoyed Birds of Prey. It's a pure popcorn carnival, manic roller coaster fun ride that just does a good job at getting you immersed and just having a good time. Like, I was really, really entertained. I just the way the film was crafted, the direction, the fight scenes, how it played out. I was just so surprised by it. Yes, I do have gripes with the movie. There were elements or aspects that perhaps could have been done better. Well, should have been done better, really, especially when it comes to the characters' developments and their motives and their backgrounds. But this was a Harley Quinn movie. They did really shift the focus on that character, and for me, it just worked. So it's not doing too well at the box office, but I do highly recommend it. It's a good time. It's a good time at the cinema. You sort of get lost for almost 2 hours, and it's entertaining. So yeah, please check it out. I will be giving Birds of Prey a 7.5 out of 10. So yeah, there's my thoughts on Birds of Prey. What do you guys think? Let me know below. What I do just want to finish off with saying, how I want to finish this video off, this review off, is this go woke, go broke bullshit that's circulating the web at the moment. Like, I've been wanting to do a video on it, but I just really wanted to sort of say something about it in this review, because there's a lot of people that really wanted this film to fail before it was even released, and a lot of that with sort of course, you know, like this film is all about women. It's Birds of Prey. It's based off the comic book, and so yeah, you're going to have women beating up people. All right, a lot of those people are men in this movie, but I don't quite get it. I really don't get this all sort of negativity when it comes to sort of these type of movies, when it comes to sort of female, sort of girl power and all of that. Like the way they did it with Birds of Prey, I just thought was fantastic. Yeah, you get Harley Quinn being picked up and thrown through a car door. It's not just women beating up men for 2 hours constantly without them get. Do you know what I mean? I just don't quite get this all woke culture thing, and I think it's just a lot of bullshit, and I just wish people would shut the fuck up about it, to be honest. Yeah, that's just my little sort of 2 cents on that subject. Perhaps I might talk about it in a little bit more depth in another video down the line. I just really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was a very entertaining film. I liked it, and I highly recommend it. So yeah, thanks for watching. That's enough of me going off on a little rant there. But yeah, thanks for watching. I really do appreciate it. And if you want to see future reviews and just general movie chit chat from a geek in Wales, then why not hit subscribe, and I'll be seeing you soon.